Well, hi there, this is Amy, and this is my introductory little video. A little bit about me and what I'm talking about, the reason I'm on here. I'm a 51-year-old mom, grandma, just a normal average chick, and unfortunately I'm dealing with chronic headaches, which are pretty much daily, and also a history of migraine. And I've just decided that I may have things of value to share to anyone else out there suffering, particularly women at midlife or dealing with, maybe some hormonal stuff on top of all of it. So there we have it. And little backstory on me with my headache history. Right around high school, I started having more headaches than, a normal high school kid should have. And I do recall vaguely at some point my mom actually took me, and I believe I had either a CAT scan or an MRI, not real positive. This was in the, mid 80s. And nothing came of it. They said, oh, nothing's wrong with you, you're fine. Just, take some Tylenol or ibuprofen or whatever it was at the time. Probably Tylenol. I don't even think Motrin was over the counter for sure. Anywho, not a huge deal really until I got, I would say right around, back up. I had a full-blown migraine for the first time when I was about 29 or 30. I was driving my car on the freeway and it was like a thunderclap. It just hit me all of a sudden out of the blue, blinding pain. The traffic was just starting to slow down. I would have kind of been trapped on the freeway, but I managed to get off of an exit before I got to really standstill traffic. So I got off of the freeway. There was a gas station right at the corner, so I pulled in there. I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a stroke or something. So I parked my car, and some folks in a car next to me, I asked them to call 911 for me because I was non-functional. The pain was horrifying and terrifying. Now, I explained to them that I was having horrific head pain, and they did call 911 to get an ambulance for me. But in the meantime, they also went into the little mini mart and got me some Excedrin, which I took. And right around the time that the paramedics arrived, my head was getting much better very, very quickly. It was successful treatment, thank goodness. So I told the, ambulance, I'm fine, I'm good, and I can drive, I'm safe, it's all good. So that was the end of that until about another 10 years later, I had another one. Not quite as extreme of an onset, but similar thing. And at that point, my mom had a friend who had struggled with migraines. So she called her, and luckily that gal loaned me an Imitrex. And that worked really, really well. Now, I didn't have another real migraine for a number of years, and right around when I turned about 45, things started getting out of hand. Migraines very frequently, especially right before my menstrual period. I would get just wicked migraines, vomiting, sensitive to light. I never have had aura. I've heard other people explain that, but I've been lucky enough to not have that, and also lucky enough that Imitrex did work for me pretty well. Even though a lot of the times when I would take the Imitrex, then I would be really nauseous, but hold it down for maybe 20 minutes or so, usually vomit, and interestingly enough, vomiting for me would be right after that I would start to recover and the pain would subside. But it was very much impacting my life, losing days of work, very concerning. And also I was starting to get more regular headaches, more days of the week. It became an increasing problem. Now at the time I was vegan. I did the whole vegan thing for about 2 years, for ethical reasons, and also, getting slimmer, and it did work. And so that was kind of coincidental. I didn't really at the time know much about migraine triggers as far as dietary or other triggers. I really didn't know much about it, nor did I do too much research. Anywho, that went on, and it's really been, I'm 51 now. It's really been the last couple of years that it's gotten to the point where, well, I'm still having my period, so there's that. And, but it's getting very irregular. So I've always been suspicious that there's a hormonal component, because my sister, who's 3 years older than I, has gone through very much the same thing. She doesn't deal with chronic daily headaches like I do, but she does have migraines, and she's on really good bioidentical hormones, which really don't seem to help with a migraine. So that's a bummer. I've tinkered around with some just bioidentical hormones that you can buy yourself, and that's never really seemed to me to make a huge impact for the positive or negative. So that's still something I'm, thinking about, but don't really know what to do with that whole component. But really the last couple of years has been an increasing frequency of my chronic daily headaches, especially this last year. It's just been, if I have a day where I don't have pain, I count my lucky stars. If I have 2 or more days, that's pretty much a miracle. It's at that level right now where I'm in pain almost every single day of my life. And it's pushed me to become really proactive, trying to figure out what I can do. I'm not wealthy. I can't be going to, specialists all the time. I have really crappy insurance, unfortunately. They give me Imitrex and they cover that, so that's great. So I'm gonna get into what I know about medications and dietary, see if I can impart some of that information to people who may need it or want it. I think what I want to focus on today, though, is the medication aspect, and then perhaps the next video I'll get really into the nutrition, because I think that's really where it's at for me, and probably from what I understand or I've read online and been researching this, a lot of people are triggered by dietary things, and there are a ton of them, unfortunately, and some of them are our very favorite foods, like chocolate. So, but back to the medication. So like I said, I've been doing Imitrex, and that's pretty helpful most of the time. It doesn't always get me 100% relief, but for example, I had a migraine. I woke up with a migraine today, and I took probably 75 milligrams of Imitrex, and about a half an hour later, it started lifting, and then an hour or so later, pretty much almost totally gone. I have a lingering, maybe a level 1 out of a 10 headache right now, which I count as very successful. So that's been really good for me. I haven't tried too many other medications, but recently my doctor decided to give me some samples of a medication called Nurtec, ODT. I think that means orally dissolving tablets. So Nurtec is a pretty new medication in a class of medications called CGRP or RT medications. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'll look into it a little further. They block something in the brain, something with the chemistry, the CGRP or T component, and they can be a lot more successful for people who are very resistant or haven't had success with other treatments. I know there are several other medications in this class, but that's where I'm at right now. The Nurtec I like it. However, there are some downsides. One of them is that it takes an hour to 2 hours to start working. Now that's rough. It is nice that it just dissolves on the tongue. So even if you are dealing with nausea or vomiting, you could probably be able to get that in your system without vomiting it back up. So that's a plus. And some other people that I've heard or read their stories, they're doing pretty well on it. And it was recently approved for preventive use, which in this case wouldn't be every day, it's every other day treatment. Now it's terribly, terribly expensive. My insurance covered 8 tablets for the month, which ain't enough, but it's a start. And but if it's not covered by insurance, I understand that 8 tablets is somewhere around $900 or more. So that's brutal. Another medication that I have tried with mixed results is nortriptyline. Nortriptyline and amitriptyline are both a very old-fashioned, I think they're tricyclic antidepressants, but they're old-fashioned antidepressants that they found out work somewhat as a preventive medication. Nortriptyline, for example, was what I was taking. It was 20 milligrams, I think it's 20 milligrams, 20 or 25 milligrams daily at bedtime. Now it had it had actually really good success for me for a while, for about a month or two. I was in a lot less pain. The daily headaches were subsiding, and it was a really big improvement. However, there are some big downsides, and I'm no longer on this medication. One of them is intense dry mouth at night, keeping me up to just sip water all of the night. I don't sleep well anyway, so that is not fun. For me, pretty bad constipation, which I lean toward that anyway, so having that aggravate my ongoing issue there, not good. And a little bit of, not exactly fatigue, but more of a body weakness. I am a bicyclist, I'm a cyclist, and I could notice the difference in my ability to ride my bike when I was taking nortriptyline. It really cut down on my feeling of strength and endurance, so that's a drag. Those side effects did kind of get a little better over time, but then my headaches also started coming back too, so it really was not worth it to me. I went off it about a year ago, and then when things got really severely bad for me again, before I found the Nurtec, I went back on nortriptyline for a while with really no success. Not anything to write home about at all, and just not worth it. And I've heard that from a lot of people. There are some people who, you know, it works for. I think they're extremely fortunate. So, you know, if you're going through this, what I can say is strap in. It's a bumpy ride, and you know, I don't think many people ever get to where they're completely cured of this problem, like they never have a migraine again. Maybe it's something to strive for, but I think it's a matter of management and being super proactive for yourself and figuring out the combination of medication, diet, lifestyle, stress reduction, things of that nature that you can personally control. But you gotta be proactive. You gotta be one of these people, if you really want, you know, to have a less pain in your life, you gotta commit to doing whatever it takes. And for me, it's still an ongoing thing. I've had a lot of success with dietary changes, but unfortunately they seem to be fairly short-lived. Like I might get 3, 4, 5, even 7 or 10 days of almost no pain after making some significant change or eliminating a whole item from my diet, like dairy or wheat or whatever, and then they creep back in. So it's extremely, extremely discouraging. However, I will not give up. I do have hope that also once I complete menopause, that maybe I'll get a lot better, because that does happen to some women. Men, I can't, you know, I can't say anything about that. I feel for you. And I do also know that I'm lucky. It could be a lot worse. There are some people who deal with literally daily migraines, full-blown daily migraines, to where they are disabled and, you know, get to a point of even being suicidal. So I know that things could be worse. And I just gotta keep my head up and keep tweaking things in my diet and with medication, and being on it. It takes what is the word I'm looking for when you have a stick to itness? I don't know what that word is, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I look forward to hearing what people have to say in response to what I'm putting out here, in the comments. If you do comment, please be kind. This is my first time, literally. So, and if you have any words of encouragement or support or advice or your personal story, I would really love to hear them. I think eventually I'd like to start interviewing other people who are struggling with this issue and see what their stories are all about. So that's it for me. Ta-ta.